Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for your introduction. So, good morning, all the participants. I think participants, we have professors, research scholars, and graduate, postgraduate students. So, a very good morning to all. So, today, for the next 40-45 minutes, I will discuss about how to write abstract, specifically for research papers. So, abstract is written for research papers, theses, technical reports, scientific reports. So we'll focus our discussion for research papers. So coming to outline of presentations, so I'll be discussing on what is an abstract, when do people write abstract, why to write an abstract, what is the requirement, and briefly about types of abstract, and we'll again focus on how to write an abstract. So that is our focus today. Then I'll be discussing about 2-3 important areas, like what are the common opening strategies, how to open, what should be the first 1-2 line of the abstract, which is very important. Then what not to write. So previous to that, whatever I told you, it is all about what to write. Next, what not to write for an abstract. So that is very important. Then 2-3 confusions regarding that. So coming to abstract, so most of the other participants, professors and research scholars, those who have already started their research and involved in writing papers, publishing papers, and in that world of paper writing, academic writing, they must have known about abstracts. But I will assume we have the audience of undergraduate student also. So assuming that, I will start. So basically, abstract is a short and concise summary of a research paper or research report or thesis or book, or maybe book chapter. So it should be accurately, concise, and it should contain most important part of the report, part of the research work. So nowadays, what happens? Thousands of research papers are published. So it's very difficult for everybody or for the researchers to go through all those papers, all those journal papers or reports within a specific area also. So abstract has been very, very important, okay, to communicate with large audience. So now, what is the most important thing about abstract is the abstract should be self-contained. Definitely, it's a summary of work. It should be self-contained. That means self-standing. So if somebody will read the abstract, there will be no need to refer some text, refer any figure, any reference, any result part to understand the abstract. So that is the most important thing about abstract. So it should be self-contained or self-understanding. Sorry, second line, that is missing, and should be short, powerful statements, and it should highlight the major points of work, and the idea of the abstract should be very clear. So that is most important, and complete. So ideas should be clear, complete, and self-contained. These three are very, very much important. Okay. And coming to the length of abstract, it depends on the type of abstract. But basically, for a research paper, it varies between 100 to 300, though 200 to 250 is most common. So these are very some examples. You can see the abstracts. So always when we see the abstracts are always followed by the keywords. That is very important. Now the question is, why do people write abstracts? So I'll just go one by one. When submitting article to journal, especially online journals, when applying for research grants, when writing a book proposal or a book, of course, when you complete the PhD dissertation, for PhD thesis, for a master thesis, we need, or for writing a proposal for conference paper. Now the question is, why to write abstract? So basically, so there are so many reasons. Basically, the reasons can be grouped into two. One is selection, another is indexing. What is selection? Coming to selection, the way I told, nowadays thousands of research papers are published. So how the researcher will choose which one to read? So in that way, abstract help. So it allows the readers to read that small paragraph and decide whether you should go through the full paper or not, whether that full paper is worthy of your time or not. So that is most important. So it saves the time. Apart from that, it also enhances the visibility, which is very much important nowadays. And coming to, there are many publishing house. So the publishing house, they have each publishing house many journals. So all the journals are not free. There are very few quality journals which are free. Most of the journals which are really worthy, international standard journals, or which is SCI index. So there is a cost attached to that. So it's very difficult to collect the full research paper. But abstract we can get. Mostly abstract is free. So if you can write a good abstract, so it will enhance the visibility. Next is indexing. Abstract is used for indexing by editors. So, and if you can say right kind of keywords, it will again easier for the researchers to find by searching. So these are the two big reasons for writing abstracts. Basically, coming to type of abstracts, that is descriptive type, and informative. So what is descriptive? Yes. So you see, in a descriptive type abstract, so it will have information. It will give you what the paper is about, what type of information can be obtained from the paper. It will not give you all the important results, conclusions. No. Of course, it will have purpose, it will include purpose, methods, and scope, but it will be silent on results, discussions, or the implication of the results. It will be silent on that. But it will specify what is to be expected from the paper. So, and generally these abstracts, descriptive abstracts are very short, 100 to 125, maximum 150 words. Okay. So this is example you can see. See, if you read this one, so you will not find any conclusion. The opportunity to design, so this is abstract 2004, Stevenson, the opportunity to design and deliver short programs on referencing and avoiding plagiarism for transnational units. The students has confirmed the necessity of combating both the all plagiarism is cheating reaction, to just give them a referencing guide response. And consequently, teaching reference is not adequate in educating students to avoid plagiarism. In this presentation, I'll use the translation. So this is for a conference. So you will not find any points, any important contents of conclusion. Okay? Now coming to informative, which is very common, which we are using in our scientific articles, the informative abstracts. So in addition to the purpose, so we'll discuss on purpose methods later on, purpose, methods, scope, it will have results and conclusion. It will also include the recommendation of the author. Of course, both the abstract, descriptive and informative, it's not a work of a critic. It's not a like review. So both the always abstracts are not there to give the opinion of a researcher. No, it is about the judgment based on certain work, based on research work or review work. It's the judgment. It's not the opinion. Okay? Now coming to the length, if it is a report, length varies from approximately 10% of the total work, entire maybe report. Coming to a research paper, in the range of 200 to 250 words, and 300 is maximum. Of course, if there is a certain, for a few journals, if they specify, it can be go to more than that, but 200 to 250 is common. So if you see the sections of informative abstract, it will have mostly 5 sections. One is motivation or purpose. What is the motivation behind the research work? Then the problem statement, the method, results, conclusions. So these are the basic sections of information. So this is a typical example of an abstract of this construction and building materials. Now, just go through that. I will discuss how various part has been covered. You see, hot climates prevail in many regions of the globe. The average summer temperature of hot arid areas is in the range of 40 to 50 degrees centigrade, with temperature exceeding these values under direct solar radiation. Gradually, it is introducing, it's telling about a global problem. Then, curing concrete in these regions may be challenging due to limited availability of suitable water for curing. So now it is about the problems. For many years, self-curing admixture were recommended as an alternative to water curing. However, limited studies have been conducted on the performance. Then, in this investigation, what has been done? Methods. Then, what is the output? It was found. So this is about the output. This is about the results. It was found that self-curing outperformed normal curing under varying conditions. Okay. Now, there is a next line. A more comprehensive explanation for the observation is posed. So that means that is a limitation. Limitation or the scope is also given. So starting from the motivation, problem, methods or methodology, how it has been conducted, how the research has been conducted, what is important results, and scope or limitation or scope and limitations. All these points have been covered in an informative abstract. So this is another example. I don't think we should do that. So now question is which type to use, whether we'll use descriptive or informative. Descriptive are very short. Okay? So sometimes the conference, a particular journal that asks for a very short abstract, like you write the abstract in 100 words. So that must be, in that case, the total paper might be 2-page paper or 3-page paper. So if it is asking the length of the abstract is in the range of 100 to 130 words, that means we should understand that it is asking for a descriptive abstract. Apart from that, even if some journal asks, in case of some conference, suppose some conference is 2 years ahead, they are asking to submit a abstract, preliminary abstract. So in that case, suppose your research has not been started or it is at a very, very preliminary stage. So in that case, we can write a descriptive abstract where no need to provide the conclusions, no need to provide the results and conclusions or particular scope. So these are the cases. So if it has been asked specifically, if you write abstract of 250 to 300 words or 200 words, then we have to go for an informative abstract. So in scientific writing or our engineering papers, journal articles, informative abstract is more commonly used. Now we'll discuss about how to write an abstract. So before writing an abstract, we should have in back of our mind, we should analyze what are the questions to be answered, what are the points to be included in the abstract. So that is very important. So coming to questions, suppose, yes, abstract writing should start after the paper is over. So once we have done with our paper, scientific paper, that is over, then we should sit for writing the abstract. So before writing, we should assimilate, we should analyze in our mind, we should try to find answers of few important questions which will help us to finalize the draft of abstract. So what are the questions? First is, what did you do? Or what we have done, basically. Why we have done that? How we did the research? And what is the learning? And what is the meaning of that learning means? How that learnings, how that results is implicated, how that results adds to the existing knowledge base. What is the meaning of the result? I mean to say, how the result adds to the existing knowledge base. So that is about conclusion. So there is difference between conclusion and result. So basically same thing I will discuss in terms of sections. So what are the sections? Whatever questions we asked here, same things. So first is we have to search, we have to analyze what is the reason for writing. Writing means it's not about the writing of abstract. What is the reason for writing of this paper, taking of this research work explained in the paper? Then exactly what is the problem? What is the hypothesis? Once we have done with the hypothesis, we have our research work is over. We have to write down the paper, that is over. Then we must have finalized the methodology. So what is the methodology? Then what is the result? Then what is the implication of the result or the conclusion? So I'll just discuss a few points about the reason for writing. What are the various reasons for writing? So first is I have to state why this subject is so important. Why do we care about the problem and the result? So that is motivation. If the problem is not obviously interesting, so it might be better to put motivation first. If the problem is interesting, we may put the problem first. Sometimes problem is not that much interesting. So in that case, we put the motivation first. Okay? So motivation to think why a reader would be interested in the larger work. So if our area of research is very, very, very pinpointed, we have to write in the motivation section, we have to write a problem which is little bit a broader problem than the problem we have taken up. Okay. So what is the broader issue? Now in this regard, I must say if your work is incremental progress on a problem, so that is widely recognized as important, then it is probably better to put the problem statement first to indicate. Okay. Suppose you are working under your professor and you're like two, three students are working under the professor on same problem. So it's an incremental work. So in that case, we for a paper abstract, journal paper abstract, not the abstract of thesis or report, with journal paper abstract, we directly go to the problem. It would avoid the motivation. Now, coming to the problems. So the problem section, we have to think what problem does this work attempt to solve. So if our problem is very strong, if it is addressing a issue, a global issue, okay, then you can start the abstract with the problem. So if it is a very, very in-depth scientific problem, so in that case, you have to go for motivation first, then in the problem also, you have to think what is the scope of the project, what is the main argument. So sometimes while writing abstract, while thinking about, while assimilating all these problem points, we need to go to our full paper, and then there may be some revision of the papers. So while writing abstract, it's a two-way thing, because abstract is a concise document, and we have to write so many things in 1-2 lines. Like if you have explain the problem in 5-6 lines or 7 lines, here you have to write the problems maybe in 1 line. So that means you should be very clear your argument. You should be very clear on what is your main argument. So in that case, it's a two-way work: abstract, full paper, abstract, full paper. So now coming to methodology. So methodology means how we have conducted the research work to achieve our objective, okay, to test the hypothesis or to solve the problems we have defined. So there are various methodology for research work. We know experimental work, analytical, numerical work, questionnaire survey, in many like in traffic engineering, in social science, In management, they go for so many questionnaire survey, interview, critical literature review, and people also use models, and also many evidence-based research work also conducted. So there are various types of methodology. So the next section, so you have to think about what methodology you have adopted. You must have adopted the methodology. Our paper is over, but you have to very pinpointly, we have to write the methodology in 1 or 2 lines. Then coming to the result. The result means what is the answer? What is the answer of the experiment? What is the answer of those literature review? But literature review also a kind of methodology. Okay, there are many research works. Many PhD students are there in Oxford University also. Their methodology is based on only literature, critical, not only critical literature. So what is the answer? Answer to the by conducting all this, by going this conducting all this methodology, what are the outputs we have got? How that solves our problem? How much, like if we have defined certain problem, whether that problem has been fully solved or part of the problem has been addressed. So that is very important. In case of scientific or engineering research work, our results may be in terms of numbers, results in terms of quantitative. Many research work, results in terms of qualitative, descriptive results. So whatever may be, we have to analyze. So what are the important results? Maybe 2-3 results. What are the important results? There may be in a research work, we conduct so many experiments, so many results we got. So we have to think which results has answered our problem. So that is important. Okay. Next is implication or conclusion. So here we have to go to again problems, how the results are addressed the problems, and there is another thing, how the results has addressed the problems in the similar field, whether that result can be applied for other field or not. That is the thing. So what is the application? We have to think what is the significance of our findings, what changes should be implemented as a result of the finding of the work. So what changes means changes to the existing to the methodology, what is available in the scientific world, or changes to the design philosophy or design steps, or for a material, changes to the material characterization, or changes to the state of the art of doing something. So in that way, in a broader sense, it has to be mentioned. It has to be analyzed. But we cannot mention all the conclusions. But if we analyze very clearly, we can, in a research work, it is very, very difficult to find more significant findings. It is very difficult. A paper may show 5, 6, 10 conclusions, but if we will analyze very minutely, you'll see if you'll get 2 or 3 significant findings, that's enough. Otherwise, it is very difficult to do much more to work which will result 4, 5, 6 significant findings in a particular paper. And also, in this conclusion section, what is coming? If there is any questions which were raised in the problems and could not be answered by conducting the research work, then that must be mentioned. So that means we have to mention what is the limitation or which research should be conducted in future, which will enhance the result which has been obtained, or enhance the conclusions which has been obtained here. So now, once you have analyzed all these points, then we should start for writing the abstract. So while we start the writing the abstract, so I have given here some point by point, very stepwise lines are written so that it will help. So when we begin to write the abstract, so first we have to find out the important statements, okay, the purpose statements, major objective or hypothesis and conclusions from introduction and conclusion. Again, I'm telling you. So while writing abstract, so within a limited time, go to the introduction. In an introduction, we cover our motivation part, the objective part. For a research paper, I'm telling, and in a conclusion, we must have analyzed the results. Few results might be written, and how that result can be implemented to enhance the knowledge base, that must be written in the conclusion section. So from introduction, we take important points about the purpose, objectives, or hypothesis, and from conclusion section, conclusion. So we have to extract those creams first. Then from method section, you have to extract one or two sentences, or you read the method section, try, analyze, and try to write 1 to 2 lines which will explain all your methods, material and methods, or your methodology. Then from the result section, identify the major results. So with this, once you have written, then we need to arrange. So here, you copy paste that. So in front of you, those 7, 8, 10 lines are there. Now looking at those lines, you try to write own notes in the following sequence. So introduction, methods, results, and conclusions. Then what is important? So now coming the important things. We have to remove certain things which might have been, which you might taken from this main text, from introduction, from results, from conclusions. So some things needs to be deleted. What are those things? First is new information that is not present in the paper. Sometimes while writing introduction, when we start introduction, we discuss in a broader sense. We write 1 to 2 lines which might not be addressed in the papers, in the coming sections. So if you copy that line to abstract, so don't write anything in the abstract which has not been addressed in the paper. Then abbreviations. So there may be many abbreviations or acronyms that might have been copied. So we have to define the abbreviations, but it is defining abbreviation is not encouraged in an abstract. That is not encouraged unless it is required, unless it is repeatedly used. So it's not. So one should try to avoid the abbreviation. Then, if you have taken any material text where there is reference, citation to the previous research, we have to remove that. So generally in an abstract, we don't refer to the already published literature, specific literature. You may write about the past literatures in a group-wise sense, not to any specific literature. So otherwise, if you write a line about specific literature, you have to give citation. So citation is not encouraged in the abstract because abstract should be self-standing. If somebody will read abstract, there should not be any requirement of referring to any paper or referring to any paragraph of your own paper. No. So that is the reason there should not be any citation. Okay? In few cases, it is cited. Another thing, suppose in method section you have done so many things. You might have copied which may not be required. So you have to analyze mentally, though you have conducted many experiments, some numerical studies, what is the most important experiments or study you have conducted which is addressing your problem. Think about that. Then you take that point. So that is very important. Next, once you have written, once you have written all those lines in your own work, then your responsibility to develop a coherency. So otherwise, it will not be, information will not be flow. There will not be a relationship between line to line. So you have to have coherence between the lines. So in the this order, purpose, methodology, and techniques, in this order. Okay. Finally, whatever type or style of language we have used in the original article, same has to be replicated in this abstract also. Now, once you are done with the abstract, it's better to review that from your colleague or from your professor, because at the first stage, as you have spent so much of time, as you have gone through that, as you have assimilated the abstracts, it's very difficult to find the mistake within your abstract. It is better to take a gap of few, like 1 day, 2 days. Then if you again study, you may find some certain you may need to correct that, or there's some error, or you may find some error. Otherwise, you give the further review to your colleague or professor. Okay. Then once they will point out your mistakes, then you try to study, correct. And again, whenever you want to correct anything in the abstract, go through the paper and check whether the message is coinciding or not, or vice versa. If you are changing at any point of time, you are doing some change in paper, again you go to your abstract and see whether the idea, concept, whatever results we have written, that is meeting the idea, central idea mentioned in the paper. So that is very important. So once you are prepared with the draft, so it needs revision twice or thrice. Okay. So these are very important things, these 3 lines. So it is not a accepted passage, like some people take it 2-3 lines from just introduction, conclusion, and they disconnect. No, it's not a review also. This is not a review of your article. Okay. And also it is not a document, it's not a paragraph for evaluation of your paper. Some people use it as people tell, okay, abstract is a trailer, but trailer has, yes, trailer is also summary, but it has another direction, like for selling, for marketing. But paragraph should not be used as a marketing. Okay, paragraph should be interesting so that it will invite the audience, it will invite the readers to go through your full paper. But at no point of time it should be used as a selling paragraph. So that is very important. We should maintain our integrity. Now go to the next phase, next part of research. This is very, very important, because based on these 1-2 lines, sometimes the abstract got rejected or accepted. Not accepted, at least rejected. What is that? How to open? So there are various strategies to open. Open means to start an abstract. So I'll discuss 3-4 strategies. What is the first strategy? Start with a real world phenomenon, not exactly your problem. The common way of starting abstracts. But always you cannot do that. It depends on, definitely depends on your research area. So if you are working on any like characterization of a material, and which is very which is a very environmentally problem to the world, or if you are working on any issue, social issue, it may be that issue may matter to a particular group, but try to first study the broader sense. Just analyze what is the broader effect, what is the global effect. So if you can write the global effect first or global issue first, so that will invite the audience. But global issue does not mean that you will write 4-5 sentences. No, because abstract is a very concise document. Paragraph, 1 line. That's so. Some examples are here. You'll see. So the second one, suppose it is on a road construction material, but this paper Like it is about some experimental study, but how it has been started. In the road construction sector, the world is facing a major problem of scarcity of conventional construction materials. So it is first telling about a global problem, it's telling about a global issue. Of course, the research is a problem of local, but starting with a global. Like corporate taxation rates vary around the world. Next sentence is trying to tell about the corporate taxation of India, but it starts at it is very around the world. So like that. So here I was telling about that. Next strategy is start with a purpose or objective. You might have seen. Directly, the first line of the abstract must be this paper aims at studying or finding the effect of this, that. The aim of this study is to verify the differences. Or, yes, this one line actually is wrong, actually, sorry. See, this is an example. This study aims to verify the differences in strength of an artificially cemented sandy soil with and without 500%. So directly, what is the purpose, what is the objective of the study? When we write all these things, suppose our research is over and it's a very in-depth study, and you will see your result section, it is so strong that you don't want to waste your time, because you have to tell your important results, its implications, so many important points are there. So you don't want to give enough space for introduction, for motivation. No. So that was in such cases, we directly write what is the aim, what is the objective. So also this research paper aims to identify, analyze. So these are examples. This study focused on the user. Now, third strategy. Start with present researcher action. Okay. That means what action has been taken. So this paper presents a comparison study of the. So this is not the. This is not telling about the objective of the research work, aim of the research work. It is telling about what has been done, what has been presented in the research work directly. Okay. A laboratory study was undertaken to evaluate the durability of cemetery stone. What has been done? Directly, laboratory study has been like that. An experimental program was conducted to explore. So this is how we can start with directly the researcher's action, based on the researcher's action. In this paper, this is another, I'm just showing the examples. So in this paper, results of a series of ultrasonic pulse variability test have been conducted. Next is start with a problem or an uncertainty. So this problem is not a very global problem. Okay, so in the first thing we tell about a global problem. It's not a global problem. We are not writing a global problem. We are not directly writing what is the aim of the research work. We are not writing what has been conducted in the research, how it has been conducted. It is specifying the problem. Like waste management in the building industry in Hong Kong has become a major environmental issue in recent years. So we are dealing with a problem. So in this way, we can start. Okay. So if you have done enough research work, if your result part is so strong that your result and conclusion, so you can directly start with a purpose or objective. Okay. That is a very straightforward way of starting the abstract. And if that is so strong, it will be accepted. Finally, I'll wind up within a few minutes. First is what not to write in an abstract. So till now, whatever we discussed, it's about what is to be thought of, what is good, all those things. But it is equally important to know what is to be avoided. So first is don't refer to other published works in abstract. I explained all these things. Still, I think it is important to mention. And also, don't discuss specific previous literature. We may discuss, so this is very important, specific. We may discuss literatures in one line, okay, in a broader sense, review of literature in a broader sense, but not any specific to literature. So this, for example, you see. So it's not a good way for writing the paper abstract. Actually, that's what I told you. They're starting with the abstract directly. Aditya most 2000 reported. This is not the way. Then the reader will again think, what is this paper is about? What they have reported? So that is the issue. So it's not a good way of writing. Good way of starting the paper. Now, in case of abstract for book, should not include references to chapters also. References to chapter, page number, or table, figure, no. Because abstract should be self-standing, self-explanatory. No need to refer any inside documents to understand it. If somebody needs to refer any other paragraphs, any result section, any table, then the purpose of abstract is not fulfilled. Then the editor or the reviewer will go to the next abstract. It will not be good abstract. Then these are important. What are things? Now, avoid acronyms or abbreviation in the abstracts unless the acronym is commonly understood. If it is commonly understood, it can use. Suppose a country, suppose UK, United Kingdom, it is very commonly understood, we can use. But if suppose there is a term, suppose in civilization, suppose FWD, falling weight diffractometer, that is not commonly understood, so we should not use that. Another is avoid undefined abbreviations. Use defined acronyms or abbreviations only if it is used multiple times in abstract. So you see, there is some like opposite to each other. So if that means, I mean to say, if some acronyms, abbreviations will be used repeatedly, you cannot avoid that because your research work revolves around that. That may be the central idea of your research work. In that case, you cannot avoid that. So you have to mention that abbreviation and you have to define that also. Undefined cannot be used, you have to define it. And most of us, all the research, those people who are doing research, they know always we should spell out the acronym for the first time when it is used. May it be main text, may it be abstract. So for the first time when that acronym has been used, we have to spell out, we have to define. So this is an example. So in this FWD, in this abstract, FWD is a very important word. So it has been used, okay? And it has been spelled out here. The first use. Next, here CMD, so many times it's used. So there is a need to use the acronym. Here it's not a good abstract actually, though it has been published in a very good standard journal. So RII has been written. RII is not a very common acronym for the researchers of all group, even in civil engineering, mechanical engineering also, all the researchers must not be very familiar with RII. Okay. So that's why it should not be used, even if it is very important. So it should have been spelled out. Okay, and I don't think that is very important because it has been mentioned in the method section. Okay. Next is don't add any information not contained in the original. So if you have not written even in the motivation section, so these mistakes happen in the motivation section, not in result section, not in methods and materials or methodology section. Such mistakes happen in the motivation. In the motivation, in the main paper, suppose something is not mentioned, you should not add that information in the original. And suppose in the motivation section in the whole paper something is written, but that has not been addressed in the whole paper, we should avoid that also. Okay. Then, unless it is required, we should not define a terminology. Suppose resilient modulus, we should not define what is resilient modulus is defined as that abstract. And yes, it should not be, which I was discussing a few moments before, it should not be a opinion of the researcher. Abstract, suppose toward the end of the abstract, you should not write any statement which is an opinion kind of thing. No. If you are writing anything, that should be a judgment based on your research work. Okay? Even if it is a review, that judgment of, if it is an abstract for review paper, that judgment should be of your own. After doing a critical review, that should be your own. Yes? You should not use any personal pronoun, I will. You should always write in third person. So I will cover within 5 minutes. Next is common confusion. So I'll deal with two common confusion. One is tense. One is which tense to be used. Another is which voice, whether it's active voice or passive. So coming to active or passive, I'll first discuss that. Active voice is very simple, straightforward. So you should use active voice, but it's not always possible to use active voice because the language of your article and language of your abstract, it should be same. You should aim at that. Otherwise, the reader will face difficulty in matching the abstract, your abstract and your paper. So therefore, it is acceptable to use the passive voice. Apart from that, there are a few cases when passive voice is accepted, not only accepted, that is also encouraged. What are the cases? First is, if you want to emphasize the product rather than the agent. For example, suppose the risk of hair loss is the risk of hair loss is the product. So that is increased by vitamin A. Vitamin A is the agent. Agent, and that is the cause, that is the product. So if you want to emphasize the product, there is no other way. You have to use it passive voice. Next is, if you want to keep the subject and focus consistent throughout a passage, that means you are writing one line in a passive voice because you want to give the product emphasis. If you want to emphasize the product. So in that case, if you are writing the next line, in the next line, there may not be a requirement of passive voice based on emphasis point of view, but still, to maintain a coherency, consistency, you should also write the next second line in a passive voice. Next. So these 2 points are very important. If you don't wish to name the subject, okay, in that case, there is no other option. You have to write passive voice. For example, the procedures were somehow misinterpreted. By whom? You don't know, or who don't want to mention. Suppose there are few researchers who have misinterpreted the procedure. Okay, so you don't want to name. In that case, you have to go for passive. Next, to describe a condition in which the actor is unknown or unimportant. In that case, we also take the help of passive voice. Like every year, thousands of people are diagnosed with cancer. Okay. So in that case, so these are various cases when, though active voice is preferred, still we should go for passive voice. Now coming to tense. So we know present tense is preferred, but it will not always be possible to write the abstract or the paper tense. So I will just briefly discuss about when to go for present or past. So while writing introduction, discussion, conclusion, our introduction or discussion of our research work, results, discussion, and conclusion, it can be presented. Or when you are writing objectives, hence presented. But if you are writing material and method for abstract also, so in that case, sometimes we have to go for past tense. So in abstract, so many people think everything should be written either present or past, so that the confusion regarding that, but no, it can be a mixture of present and past. Like you should prefer present, but like material and method, uh, sometimes use past tense. So I will wrap up like this. The abstract should be concise, clear, cohesive, and self-standing, and it should be the summary of work and not opinion. So thank you. So there are the references. Okay, so thanks to all the professors, research scholars, postgraduate students, undergraduate students who are patiently hearing for the last 40 to 45 minutes. And also my sincere thanks to team Manuscriptpedia, specifically Professor Daniel, for inviting me for this lecture. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dipti Ranjan Biswal. I think any participants, if you have any queries, you can unmute your audio and you can ask your queries. Yeah, Hans Karthik, Kausik, you can unmute your audio and you can.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Kausik.
Sir, first of all, thanks a lot for such an informative presentation. You have almost covered every dimension related to writing the abstract of research paper, like language and everything. So what you have already explained, I won't be asking something out of that. I have something beyond these basic guidelines that I wish to ask to you.
Yes.
So why not limitations of study are considered important to be included in the part of abstract? Like, for example, we are referring most of the research papers for gap analysis, like what researches have already been done. We want to take away from, we want to take like something new from that. Right. So although the full research papers, most of the research papers do include the limitations of the study, but if the journal or if the paper is not an open access journal, so there is we cannot go through all. For example, most of the papers from Elsevier are not from open access journals. So is it not important? I just want to know your opinion. Is it not important to mention the limitations of the study so that the new researchers can come up with the can identify the gap and can carry on their research work?
Yes, fine. Your question is very correct.
Right,
I have seen few abstracts where the limitations are mentioned. Okay,
right,
at the end of the abstract, limitations are mentioned. But what is important is that if that limitation is part of the problems you have defined, you think one is future study. Suppose if you conduct a research, you can visualize so many areas of study. Okay, and that also mentioned as a limitation in the full paper. Fine.
Yes, sir.
Now, if that limitation is connected to the problems you have defined, okay,
yes, sir. Yes,
like
sir.
that is a part of the problem you have defined, then that can be included in the abstract, because abstract is 200, 250 word.
Right, sir. Yes,
like you are under huge pressure. You want to include all the ideas inside that 250 words. So that's why it is not good to just write any limitation.
Right, sir.
So full length paper, we can mention 3-4 limitations. Limitation means future scope of study.
Future scope, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, but here there's no need to mention all the future scope of study. Always there will be future scope of study. But suppose the problems you have defined, in that problem, you think this particular another one study will like fill the gap of the problem you have defined, you should mention that. Okay.
Yes. Yes, sir.
So that is one thing. Another area is that many people also, whatever limitation you think, they start the research work of that limitation. So they don't want to give that information to outsider. Yes, that is also because
one of the reasons.
Nowadays, nowadays people are taking, like you might be thinking some area of research, people will start.
Right.
You must be thinking for 3 months, people will start, and after 6 months they will communicate the paper.
Right.
So that is the reason very serious researchers, they don't want to give that limitation, mention that limitation, because if somebody will go through that paper and he will study the limitation, so he may try to
Mm.
like carry out the research. So as
Yeah,
a the sense of
exactly.
security. So sense
Yes,
of
sir.
security has a role to play. I'm not telling you that is the reason. So it is one of the reasons.
Might be the thing. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Another question is like, what about to write a graphical abstract? In what type of research descriptive or informative abstracts used?
Coming to descriptive, if you are going for a like social study research, okay, and your research is not completed. So in that case, because in case of social study research, our results and conclusions, these are qualitative in nature, not quantitative. So in that case, we should go for descriptive. And coming to graphical, like biological, based research nowadays, they prefer the graphical abstracts because that carries more message rather than a just written paragraph.
Any more queries? Any more queries? You can unmute your audio and you can ask to Sir, or you can ask your query in chat box.
Sir,
Yeah.
can we copy problem solved by this work in abstract from somewhere else?
Again, please. I could not get you actually.
Abstract में problem लिखते हैं ना, problem solved. So can we copy this from anywhere else?
Can we copy?
Yes, sir.
Hello, ma'am. You were asking, can we
No,
copy
no.
the abstract alone from some other articles?
I'm not getting you actually.
Yeah.
जिस तरह we are doing work, we do not know what problem this work has solved. Can we copy this thing from other?
No. Thing is that means you are asking, you have not written the paper.
Yes, sir.
Before writing the paper, you want to write the abstract. So that is your case. So under such circumstances, you are asking the question. So in that case, if you are going to write an abstract, means you must have defined the problem and objectives, problem or objectives, and what should be the methodology to achieve your objectives. So that must have been defined. If that has not been defined, then how you write? You cannot write. Rather, you should study more to define your problem, to find out the methodology. So more study required.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Another question is like, in nature journals, citations are included in abstract. What about your opinion in this regard, especially in photonics field? In photonic field journals, I think in nature they are including
Yes.
citations in abstract.
Yes. No, actually, it will include citation in the abstract. The purpose of abstract is spelling. That means you are making compulsory. Means it kind of like I can say like marketing. That means they have to like search the journals which has been cited, the paper which has been cited. It should be self-standing. Because the student cannot read all the papers. So but he can read like 100 abstracts. Out of 100 abstracts, you can choose 20 and can collect the full-length paper of the 20. But if you cannot understand the abstract completely, if you need another paper to read the abstract, then what is the purpose? Your purpose is not fulfilled. Abstract is a short document so that will help the reader. So there is no need to use that citation. Well, I'm not commenting much here.
Any more queries from the participants? I think many were asking, can you share the PPT after the session?
Yes, definitely. Immediately,
Yeah.
I will send to Daniel sir,
Yeah.
and I think he must have been all the contact details.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay.
I think then if then no more queries, then we will wind up this session. Thank you, Dipti
Okay.
sir, for very informative session. Thanks for accepting the invitation also from us and being here for nearly 1 hour. Yes, sir.
Thank you for the
Yes,
opportunity.
yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.